Hello, people. Now, we are kind of a West Coast podcast, aren't we, Griff? Like, you are in the West Coast. We cover a West Coast team. Ty is not in the West Coast, but he has a Western flavor to him.
He is sourced from the West Coast.
Yes.
If you go back far enough.
So, our apologies with what's happened in terms of the showtime.
Well, but 9:30 Pacific time was the intended start time.
Yeah, I mean, like if you know how to read a Twitter account, this wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
The nine of you could do that. Thank you very much. We're pleased to ask your questions.
Thanks for everyone showing up. Now, the primary value of YouTube is that you can replay it.
Yeah, and if you're watching this point and you're like, why are they not talking about the Seahawks yet? That's going to come. If you want to skip our infamous preamble, which is popular with some people for some unknown reason, click the timestamp below. I will tweet out that we're live now for everybody. Griff, how is your weekend looking?
It's looking all right. Oh, I have a 3-day weekend. That's right. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
What?
Yeah, we have Monday off.
Why? Did someone die?
Something about labor rights. I don't know.
No, well, that's important.
No, it's
the worker should have rights.
Yeah, I agree. As a worker, absolutely. Labor Day. So yeah, we got that going on, and I mean, I've got like choresy stuff to take care of, but yeah, it'll be nice and leisurely for me. Otherwise,
fantastic. See, this is the thing. Doing this at 5:36 a.m. Salute to a fellow Greenwich Mean Time, British Summertime time zone person. But yeah, there you go. Enjoy the stream. That sounds like a busy weekend, kind of, Griff.
How about? Yeah, it'll be fine. How about you?
Well, this is why, chat, that we doing at this time, because I have to go to work after this. So if we'd done it at the Eastern time, then I would not have been able to function properly. So I appreciate you being flexible, everybody. Please do, if you're here, if you want any questions answered during the podcast, ask them in the live chat function on YouTube. Griff, any other preamble? Oh, Griff, I have a preamble topic.
Okay.
Let's talk about lemonade.
Okay, sure, yeah. Yeah.
So lemonade, right?
So you talk about lemonade.
So you have your lemonade and you have your lemonade, right? You have your lemonade, which is like clear and fizzy and is sugary, and then you have.
See, we're already off the rails here. What are you talking about? Fizzy lemonade, like carbonated?
Yeah. Carbonated lemonade.
All
right. So that's lemonade.
No.
Yes.
Hold on. We don't call that lemonade over here. Over here, lemonade is a flat drink. There's no carbonation. Now you can find carbonated lemonade, but it's typically like some like Italian import, right? Or export. Export from Italy to America, like a limonada by San Pellegrino, I think, for example. But like lemonade is a flat drink in America on this.
So what is Sprite or 7-Up?
Soda. Soda.
It's lemonade. It's fizzy. It's fizzy
no,
lemon.
But that's all. No, you're not taking literal lemon. There's no juice in soda. Soda is all water, high fructose corn syrup, and then natural flavors added. That's not actual lemonade. Might be a lemon or a lemony flavored, lime flavored soda.
Like a lemonade.
No. Okay, actual carbonated lemonade is amazing.
Yeah, like we have this. No free ads, but we have a company. It feels British, called I think it's RG Whites.
Okay.
R Whites, a British brand of carbonated lemonade. Produced and sold in the United Kingdom by Britvic. Robert and Mary White produced the first R. White's lemonade in Camberwell, South London, in 1845. Yeah, that's lemonade. Now,
Yeah, I don't know
here, we'd call what you call normal lemonade, we'd call that cloudy lemonade because it's cloudy.
Cloudy lemonade.
Yeah, it's delicious. Like, don't get, or if you're, I feel like with the Americanization of the world, that might it might be called homemade lemonade now.
Interesting. So you'd be like, "Excuse me, can I please have a cloudy lemonade?" If you're out at the store.
All right, fella, can you grab me a cloudy lemonade?
I wonder what the French call lemonade.
Limonade.
Lemonade, yeah. Pardon, garçon, je voudrais en lemonade, s'il te plaît. Tout de suite, maintenant.
Why? Who are you calling boy?
Isn't that what they call the don't they like? Isn't that like a Parisian stereotype where they call a male server garçon like condescendingly?
Oh, maybe.
Garçon.
Maybe.
It's probably
okay.
outdated. It's probably
second cultural difference of the preamble.
Only the second?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So do you want to? And this had been requested by Monjombo, so shout out. The lemonade topic, but this is one which I've thought of. So Griff, if you had a drink which was made from apple juice, what would you call that?
Okay, so we've got just regular apple juice, but typically when we get something apple juice based and it's hot, we call it cider. Hot apple cider.
First of all, why the hell is it hot?
Well, what do you call apple juice then?
Apple juice.
Then what is hot apple juice to you?
Hot apple juice. Why are you warming it up?
I'm not saying you necessarily warm it up, but apple cider is usually a hot beverage.
Excuse me. OG3, like the way I draw twos is, you know what, OG3? It's been a minute. It's been
a while since you banned him.
Yeah. Just when you're in that timeout, consider maybe that I draw twos absolutely fine. And also, I hadn't had this coffee yet. So.
How many times have you banned OG3 now? Is that the third or fourth time?
You know what? It's a good point. Maybe it should be permanent. Is that what you're suggesting here?
But then if you ban him permanently, you can't continue to ban them.
True.
That wouldn't be very fun.
I'm kind of addicted.
It's kind of like, that would kind of be like the Joker actually killing the Batman.
Right.
Then it would all be,
Why hasn't he done that yet?
Right. All right. We should get started before.
Yeah, anyway, we call cider's always alcoholic here, and there you go.
Okay.
And it's just, we'd never warm up apple juice because that's just freak behavior.
Can you get the apple cider, like the soft apple cider? Like, do you get it like in packets, like in a powder?
That's insane. No. Sorry, if this was flipped, you'd be absolutely ridiculing me.
No, I understand. Right. I understand. Yeah, if you Google hot apple cider powder, it's like very common. Alpine is
why?
Brand. I don't know. Just
who wants to drink warm apple juice?
I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it gets boring by the time you turn like 12. But
I think this is what like Prohibition did to America.
Perhaps.
Whoa. Chris, thank you. That's very kind.
Very generous.
Well, Chris, we've seen that. We'll probably thank you again during the actual pod. But yeah, we'll answer that in the pod. Thank you, dude.
That's a great question. Yep.
Really good question. Right. Should we do this thing?
Hit it, Matty.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griff and I are going to preview the 2024 Seahawks regular season. Yep, we're at that point where it's time for actual Seahawks football. We've seen the preseason, we've seen the exhibition, And now we have takes that have been formed off the back of that, and bold predictions, which we realistically will never revisit unless they're like bang on correct. And if they're wrong, then forget about it.
We will deny their existence.
We'll also be looking at week one regular season versus the Denver Broncos at home. Sean Payton taking his side to Seattle for the second time, but with a different quarterback. Lots to talk about there. But first, Griff, the Seahawks now are at the stage where their roster has been whittled down to that initial 53. They've also changed a bit of it too. They have a practice squad. They have injury news. Before we talk about the roster, I guess the significant news is that Uchenna Nwosu, after spraining his knee in week 3 of the preseason, nasty cut block. Good news in that Seahawks general manager John Schneider said he does not anticipate having to put Uchenna Nwosu on injured reserve. He said that on a radio appearance. That is significant, Griff. I mean, the impact Nwosu had on defense last season in terms of his ability to bring juice as an early down pass rusher where he takes his shots to get negative plays, but also, in the run game that translated too. Now, there's other reasons the defense fell off a cliff in terms of their run defense, where they did actually start as a top 5 unit in the league and then completely collapsed. But Nwosu going down certainly didn't help things, and the knock-on effects from that, the ramifications were severe. However special Mike McDonald is as a defensive coordinator, Nwosu is a big, big player, and him missing as little time as possible, I am in favor of. So whether this is, 1 week, 2 weeks, or, Nwosu tweeted, "Be right back," didn't he? Mm-hmm. But Griff, positive news after a scary moment.
Yeah, indeed. You always want injuries to be, the recovery time to be brief and ephemeral, and it sounds like this might be a lot better than they originally thought it did, so that's good. A good sign. And it would be a bummer, obviously, for him to not be able to play, but it would be really a bummer to start this season off without one of your most important players, one of your most talented players. So, excuse me. Yeah, it's good to hear that.
Well, and how, Griff, your forte is offering insight onto the players rather than it's good that the guy's not injured.
Yeah.
How good is Nwosu?
Nwosu's really good, man. It's fun. Like we've talked about him, but he's one of those players where he gets signed in free agency and you catch him right at the right time and he gets better. Like he outplayed his original deal. And now he's being paid commensurate to the value he puts out on the field. So he deserved that pay raise, that extension. But he is like a firmly good, quote unquote, pass rusher, edge rusher. He'll get you a lot of hurries. He'll get you like 7 to 9, 10 sacks range. And he offers for his weight class for 250, 255 elite run defense, I think, relative to his weight class. So like that is to say, like, yeah, he's not going to give you run defense the way a 275-pound guy would because they just play the game differently, but he's doing it. There's still a plethora of guys out there that are full-time players, or at least 3-down players that are in his weight class that are not as good at playing the run as he is. So he's really crafty. Matty, you've described him as a shot taker. He indeed is a shot taker, but he can also just stand blocks up. He has that sense of like knowing when to work inside, when not to, when to try to olay a guy, when not to, when to just play it straight up. So really cool.
Why I describe him as a shot taker is it sticks in my mind, but I think it was the term Pete Carroll used, but essentially he was saying that for their run defense to stay good or be good that year, they needed guys who had the right feel, as you said, Griff, for the moment to try and make a play versus, to stay and play. You think back to those great Legion of Boom defenses, that was Michael Bennett's bread and butter. Like he was so damn good, or his calling card maybe is a better word, but he was so damn good at knowing this is my opportunity to to shoot my gap a bit more, not stay and play and get a tackle for loss on this run because I know I'm getting this type of block and I just recognize the formation indicator, etc., etc. Nwosu obviously a very different body type, but he brings that type of aspect to the defense. And so it is promising that he's going to be back fairly soon. Now, it's not going to be instant, I don't think. I think he's going to be missing week 1. And so Seattle made 2 corresponding moves. Obviously, they traded Darrell Taylor prior to this injury. And I'd been saying, hey, if you trade Darrell Taylor, you're going to be without a guy who wins often around the back of the pocket, around the arc of the pocket with speed rush. And those guys don't grow on trees. And Uchenna Nwosu is probably the closest type of rusher to that skill set on the roster. And with Taylor gone, it's going to be tough to replace. And lo and behold, Nwosu gets hurt. But instead, Seattle has some different body types. And the first one is reflective of why Taylor is no longer on the roster, in that Trevis Gibson was acquired. Let me try and... Did they sign him, Griff, or was he traded for? This is very bad preparation.
Gibson was traded for a 6th-round pick. So
thank you.
Really, it's a Taylor for Gibson swap, in effect.
Yeah, which when you look at the fact that, Taylor once had 9.5 sacks in a season versus Gibson having 11 sacks in a season, 11 career sacks, sorry, that's not it's not a fair comp. However, there's clearly some stuff in terms of Taylor's fit with the coaching staff, stuff behind the scenes maybe that would also lead to the two sides sort of calling it quits. But as I mentioned, Gibson, really his run defense is a strength of his. He's 6'3", 261 pounds with nearly 34-inch arms. And I remember watching him back at the Senior Bowl in 2020, and he was someone I wrote down as a guy who was popping with his run defense, but also when Seattle was trying to replace Jadeveon Clowney after 2019, and they'd been running a lot of over type fronts, so 4 down fronts. I wrote down Gibson as a guy who could play to the B gap bubble, meaning basically he's an edge setter who can maybe kick down inside a bit, almost like that old 5 tech in Seattle, but within those that parameter of them not really reducing too much, playing a bit wider. And yeah, he just seemed like a standout run defense type of guy. And it was a cool addition, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of agnostic about the whole Darrell Taylor trade. I didn't really care in either direction. At this point, we know what Taylor is. He's not a good run defender, but he is a mildly above average pure edge rusher. So those types of players are, it's nice to have them at the bottom of your depth as a depth pass rusher. You trot them out on 2nd and 3rd and long and just rotate them in and out. Can put heat on tackles, especially when they're tired. But I admit though that my preconceived notion of Gibson was that he was roughly the same player. So it's that you have looked at him more deeply and seen that he actually is a competent run defender.
Well, hold on now.
Yes,
I haven't been diving deep into his Jags 2023 or Bears tape recently. But,
regardless though, it's still.
Well, hang on though. Okay. Chicago Bears Reddit a year ago. Chicago's Bear fan deleted account said he might be our best pass rusher right now, but his run defense is absolutely horrid.
Interesting. Well,
so
that's Reddit, Reddit user, anonymous Reddit user's opinion. I don't know. Can it be worse than Taylor? Now, to Taylor's credit, I do think that he played the run better than we've seen him in a long time during this preseason. And I was calling that out, not to just saying hey, this guy, myself included, we've all been discussing him as not a very good run defender. He's actually putting out some pretty high effort right now. That said, I don't think effort was Taylor's problem. I don't think technique or effort or football IQ is Taylor's problem. He's just not strong enough. It's really that simple with him.
I think he's a bit, I don't know.
He has a couple of bozo plays. Don't
Yeah,
get me wrong.
I think I don't
But
want to call him a bozo, but I think there's lapses perhaps in whatever, which
he'll do
wasn't the
something like
bozoness.
egregiously wrong occasionally.
Right. Like
But
run onto the field when
or
when
or the
there's a
or the
big
or the,
play.
or the Jared Goff thing, right? But like his run defense problems are not because of effort. It's not like, oh, if he would just try harder, he'd be good against. No, it's because he's too light. That's why. Like as a pass rusher, he's got a toolkit of moves. He knows what he's doing. It just doesn't matter because he's too light. He's not strong enough. Like he dropped weight from 2021. He's never had that play strength again. He could go speed to power. We remember him going speed to power at Tennessee, right? He would decleat guys. He had that in spurts in 2021, and then it just vanished the past 2 seasons. So, I mean, with him, it's like, I don't know what the doctor said, but he's got screws in his shin. I don't know if they said, like, dude, you can't like squat heavy anymore. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to guess. I'm not going to pretend to know. But his functional play strength on the field evaporated. So he's been reduced to a second and long, third and long edge rusher, right? So whatever. We're still talking about edge 5, right? It becomes a little sour when the Nwosu injury hits right after, but like they can't plan for that, right? So
Well,
what is mildly disappointing maybe is what is mildly disappointing is that he's not 267. He's
yeah,
like
he may have been
240.
once upon a time, but he looked like 240s.
I don't even think he wasn't even 267 at Tennessee. That's college teams cooking their guys' numbers.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I don't. He's not an ounce over 245 in my opinion. From what I anyway.
Yeah. So Nwosu may be out for a couple of weeks, and Seattle since that point has also made another corresponding move, and they've signed Tyus Bowser to their practice squad. Now, this is a guy who has history of McDonald's, so he knows the system. He's 29 years old. He was a second-round pick in 2017. His story really is one of injuries. He had a nasty injury in the summer and got released of 2023 and got released in 2024. He didn't play in 2024. In 2023, but he had a 7-sack season in 2021, starting all 17 games for Baltimore, and in 2019, starting 0 games, managed to get 5 sacks. Also 3 sacks in his rookie year. So he's comfortable fitting in with a rotational pass rush. I imagine the corresponding move will be basically Nwosu inactive, Bowser called up from the practice squad. Like, I don't think that's that complicated. So there you go, Griff. What do you think of Bowser? Very Ravens type signing in that, that fourth guy just giving you some juice off the bench, some pass rush off the bench. I don't know what he looks like now, but I know at his best he was.
To me, he's like
good.
a rushed Sam. He's a Sam first that you can actually send off the edge a little bit, but like he's a competent edge rusher, but he's not a guy that needs to be featured. He's like a utility line of scrimmage edge, pretty much. You can drop him. The one. Go ahead.
Rush Sam for like in Seahawks terms, Seahawks analogy terms, it's like a Bruce Irvin light.
Bruce Irvin light, yeah. So if you think like Bruce Irvin and Nwosu, you compare and contrast with them. On that end of the spectrum, Nwosu is more rush heavy, and Irvin is a little more kind of pure linebackery on the edge of the spectrum, at least like toward the end of his career, right? So Bowser's kind of like on the Irvin end of the spectrum when it comes to that kind of player. He's still playing on the line of scrimmage. If I were to have one minor frustration about Taylor not being on the team, is that I think he actually is pretty good in coverage for his position, like outside linebacker.
Yeah, because I see people say he doesn't fit a 3-4, but like he could, in a 3-4, your outside linebackers ideally need to be able to cover and drop into zones, and Taylor was good at that. I think that's an underrated part of his game.
He's the best dropper of all of their edges, really. I mean, he's the most nimble. He has the best change of direction in space. I mean, his tape as a dropper to this point has been good, but like he's only doing that 5 times a game.
Yeah.
I mean, like I would rather have him when those sim pressures were one of your edges, is it was one of the hook defenders. I'd rather have him doing that than Nwosu, but like it's all small potatoes though. I'm not like sweating it. I'm just saying.
Right. Right. So, outside linebacker, final piece of news is that preseason favorite Jamie Sheriff was waived and claimed off waivers by the Carolina Panthers. Griff, hindsight is 2020. We are blessed with it. John Schneider was not, but would you have waived Sheriff?
You know, no, I wouldn't have. Especially, I would have kept him around for the first week, and then if you're trying to play around with numbers at edge, I would have waived him maybe after the first week, and then you sneak him on after.
Yeah, because he's like making a lot of preseason plays. People are going to be noticing that, and it's also, I mean, he's 24, so he's not the youngest of prospects. That being said, it's a position of need. You just got rid of Darryl Taylor, and Nwosu's like, could you not have finagled the roster mechanics a bit better? I don't know.
Right, but whatever.
That being said, I hold my hands up. I'd have waived him, so I'd have been the one being criticized by John Schneider in an alternate universe. All right. So, significant news on the offensive line, Griff. First of all, Schneider said in that same radio appearance that he expects right tackle Abe Lucas to play this year, but he also said they're playing the long game with Lucas, making sure to take care of him and do what's best for the player and team long term. So, that all but confirms that George Fant is the Seahawks starting right tackle.
Yep. And I just want to say I saw him at a store recently. I saw him at Nordstrom's.
Sorry, could you please clarify who that was?
I saw George Fant, right tackle for the Seahawks at Nordstrom's. That's the second time I've seen him at Nordstrom's, by the way, in my life.
I've been to Nordstrom's. I liked it. What not to get too stalky, what part of Nordstrom's was this in? What section of the department store?
He was sitting down, so...
Right. Well, that's not good. You put him on his ass?
It was one of the benchy areas. Let me just say, and then I saw him walking away because I looked over my shoulder. I was like, wait, was that George Fant? And then I'm like, oh, it is George Fant. Anyway, he is so large. He is so large. And his proportions, because he's a lean guy, it's like you feel like he should be like a Game of Thrones character, like the Mountain or something, because he's very large.
Well, that's great. Well, then it's fine. I'm not worried about it.
So, what I'm saying is, after some in-person scouting, I feel really good about the right tackle position.
Yeah, that's very football talk. Like, you saw the guy. You had to get up close to him in person to feel good about him. I mean, the signs were on the writing was on the wall, right? The contract they gave him, it always sniffed like, oh, this Lucas thing is going to be...
He is so large that if this was like the 70s, how they'd scout him back then, they'd be like, I bet he's like he could, I don't know, never mind.
Yeah, maybe not, maybe like don't do the 70s, like that could get a bit.
No, just like how they describe things in like different terms, like.
Right.
I know. I don't have anything.
Okay. But, I mean, I think George Fant healthy is better than Abe Lucas in pain. Like, Abe Lucas in pain last season was really struggling. Like, and I worry a bit with the lower body thing of he's had this procedure. Is he, when the lower body thing happens to these big dudes, and especially the tall, long guys, is he going to be able to bend in the same way?
Right.
Or is it just gone?
Right.
That's a real shame. But hopefully he can come back, and I think Fant is George Fant a better pass protector than Jake Curhan? Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's your concern level here?
I mean, I'm mildly concerned about right tackle because George Fant he was decent in Houston, but he himself has injury history and availability concerns, I guess. So I mean, it's possible that, I don't know, the right tackle situation is not stable.
It's possible that McClendon Curtis is taking the snaps week 2.
Potentially.
Oof. Yeah, the Lucas thing is concerning because, like, I don't, it seemed bad, but for it to have dragged into the regular season, that's, yeah. All right, other offensive line news. Center Connor Williams, who the Seahawks signed to be their starter after his knee injury, Schneider said they don't know yet whether he will be ready to go next week, which is this coming week. He's been working to get up to speed, and that will be a coaching/training staff decision. I mean, that's Schneider playing it close to his chest because, don't give your opponents competitive advantage. Olu Oluwatimi's taken plenty of first-team reps as the center. Worked a lot with the first team, hit the second-year player. Griff, if Williams isn't the guy, if he hasn't shown the coaching staff enough, what's the comfort level on Olu?
I was hyping Olu a little bit before preseason started, and I think he's relatively disappointed a little bit. He talked about dropping weight. I don't know if that worked out for him or not. I'm curious how he feels about it. It didn't seem like his play strength was what it was last year.
That's an interesting decision.
Yeah. I wonder...
How many times, sorry, getting sidetracked here, how many times do you hear in the offseason, like, a guy say, I'm dropping weight or I'm adding weight, and it actually goes well?
Honestly, I'm trying to think of a guy. Most of the time, it doesn't work out for them. It kind of killed Bruce Irvin's first-round trajectory, adding weight. It made him a better linebacker, but it made him a worse edge rusher. The only guy that stands out in my way that actually helped is Max Crosby.
Oh.
Crosby's put on 20 pounds, and it's helped him. He hasn't gotten slower. He's just gotten stronger. But yeah, with Olu, it didn't seem to work. But maybe that's in part why they kept Sundel. They want him to push Olu and give some real competition there.
Well, you've just preempted my next topic, which is what surprises were there from the Seahawks' initial 53, their current roster, and their practice squad. And I guess Jalen Sundel, an undrafted free agent out of North Dakota State, the fact that he has made the team as a backup center, I mean, he's likely a guy after week 1 they put in, the practice squad, but good for him.
Good for him indeed.
There we go. Good for him. Griff, any other surprises? I guess I'll go with the fact that DJ James, the Seahawks draft pick, he didn't make the roster. And then I haven't seen any news that he's on the practice squad as of recording. Just double checking that. Yeah, so he's just one of 2 unsigned rookie draft picks after the roster cut. So he's just a straight street free agent right now. And he was a guy who, when they drafted him in the 6th round and we watched the tape live on stream, that was exciting. I see, wow, someone's describing him as a Seahawks scouting failure on the internet. That's strong. But, he was making plays in week 3 of the preseason, and you watch the broadcast copy, and he's the DB who's standing out. He's making good tackles. He's showing up as a nickel. But then you watch it back, and you watch the All-22, and he's kind of struggling, and he's sort of I know he got picked on a bit in camp as well, and in the Lumen Field practice, and the ball skills thing is another thing. I feel... Yeah, I mean, how taken aback were you that James made it over, say, Nehemiah Pritchett, who obviously has a different build, potentially a higher ceiling because of that body type?
How do I feel about James making it over Pritchett, or do you mean getting cut?
I mean the inverse, yeah. The fact that Pritchett made it over James.
I think Pritchett more fits how I think he's the toolsy outside guy that they can teach the press technique to. Yeah, with James, I was a little surprised because I think we liked James more than Pritchett, right, during the draft process. Yeah, his actual coverage wasn't that great. I mean, he was kind of losing guys. And
Yeah.
that was one of the things I liked most, his ability to squeeze stuff with outside leverage.
Yeah, he
Um,
was like not even close to some of the stuff.
I don't. Maybe he just wasn't ready for like NFL speed. I don't know. He was pretty good coming downhill, and obviously the nickel's going to have to make a lot of tackles. So, but between Devin Witherspoon, who will be playing nickel, Artie Burns, and then one of the safeties, I don't think he was showing enough to warrant kind of keeping 4 nickels. That said, I don't think Artie Burns's man coverage was great either. He lost some guys in coverage where he wasn't being targeted, so he didn't really show up on the broadcast. But I thought Artie's zone stuff was pretty good though, so it might be like a Ugo Amadi situation again. Man coverage opens you up to a lot of high variance though, so maybe he'll rebound. Maybe he's showing good stuff in camp. I don't know, but yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Artie Burns is a relevant topic. He wasn't practicing 2 days ago. He's still hurt at the moment. And the fact that DJ James hasn't been brought back, even with that, it's not a good sign for his NFL future. But like you said, Burns, he wasn't as far separating as what James was in man coverage, but there were guys coming open, which, I mean, man coverage in the slot is really difficult. It's, there's so much space, there's so many different routes that you have to defend, there's so many different body types you have to match up with, and there's a lot of speed that gets put in the slot too. I just really like Burns' ability in zone, Griff, as a zone nickel. I think it was an undisclosed toe injury, which it looked like, because it was a non-contact one where he'd been sprinting in motion with the receiver, and then it looked like his leg just exploded. That's really good news that it's not that, because it looked like a bad knee injury. But hopefully Burns can come back, but I guess week 1, the ramifications here is James is gone. Burns is going to be working his way back. Witherspoon's your primary nickel. We'll see how heavy the Broncos decide to play this season. Not getting ahead of ourselves here, but there's big nickels on the roster. Yeah.
Right.
All right, Griff. Final roster piece of news. Mike Barrett, Griff, they traded a 7th round pick for him. They then cut him, but he made it to the practice squad, so we don't need to overreact.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to overreact. You can't make me.
Well, hang on, though. I'm pretty sure I saw... Wasn't there not a tweet? There's always a tweet.
Oh, no.
No? Okay. And George Halani made it to the practice squad. Any other practice squad guys you're pleased to see stick around? It's nice that Cody White and Aesop Winston Jr. made it. Oh, yeah. I guess that's another surprise, Griff. Derek Young made the active roster, and in my opinion, that's because he is that kind of DK Metcalf mirror, despite him kind of disappointing in the preseason games we saw.
Yeah, I guess I'm not surprised he made it. I kind of thought he would. I just don't know, I mean, he's supposed to be a blocker, and he's not blocking well, right?
Oh, dear.
I mean, we mentioned it in the last episode, so I just wanted to see what Winston or White had. That said, they're on the practice squad, so the competition is on really in practice and throughout the year. And I'm sure Derek Young offered more in special teams than I was aware of. Yeah, so I don't think he's going to be involved in the offense very much. He'll be spelling Chenault, I would think, the most. Yeah, but beyond that, we'll see. I mean, I hope the blocking improves, of course, but
yeah. Right. Let's get out of the roster stuff and transition to a 2024 preview of the Seahawks season. So, Griff, how many wins are the Seahawks getting this year?
I'm gonna go 10. They feel like They have the talent of an 11-6 team, or they feel like they should be an 11-6 team. I felt that way last year too, and they only won 9 games. So I think that the coaching staff will fix the problems. I mean, really, they're not fixing anything at this point. It's a completely new start, right? So I think that they'll be getting the talent to match the play, and the play will match the talent. However, I'm deducting 1 win because rookie head coach, just so many unforeseen things. So that's kind of extending some grace to McDonald in a way. I feel like they should win 11, but I think they will win 10. And I think that will be a successful season. So yeah, I got 10 wins. I got 10 wins.
Las Vegas has the over under for wins set at 7.5. So
what are the inputs for that? What are their variables? Because,
well, I guess the negative points differential last year, despite them having a winning record, and then like 1-score games.
Maybe, but isn't the premise that they were? Isn't the premise though that they were woefully undercoached last year, and that this is an improvement on the old staff? I mean, that just feels a little egregious for me.
The New York Times projects the Seahawks with 8.2 wins.
Interesting. Now Vegas, they see things through a lens that we don't see things, and the house always wins in the end. But
yeah,
it's I mean, I just looking at the talent, like this team should win 10 games. Maybe part of it is that they're assuming a repeat of the offensive line situation last year, which I guess, and that kind of feeds into the 1-score game thing, where variance could hurt them instead of help them. But I mean, if the O-line is healthy, I don't even care what the defense does. If the O-line is healthy, the offense is enough to win 10 games by itself. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if they had under 7.5 wins, even with the not free pass, but the understanding that the Seahawks have a new head coach, and the fan base accepting there might be a teething period, if you want. 7 wins would be very disappointing for Seattle.
That'd be a tough pill to swallow for sure.
I mean, we've been spoiled watching the Seahawks. They've always been a winning team, and for the last lots of years, I'm not going to work out the exact math. But, the way that the season was described to us by John Schneider, and, reading in between the lines of how ownership felt, was that last season was a disappointment. Despite them having a winning record, missing the playoffs, not good enough, with the talent on the roster and how good the progress looked after the 2022 season. This year, really, Griff, if Mike Macdonald makes the playoffs, which 10 wins would make the playoffs, he's 20-1 to be coach of the year. And I'm kind of feeling that's a pretty good value bet, because he's a hype beast type coach. Nationally, he is renowned.
Mm-hmm.
Or you didn't make the playoffs last year. You're taking over from a legendary coach in Pete Carroll. And for you to make the playoffs in your first season as a rookie head coach with, Geno Smith's perception league-wide is still all over the place. But I think the average fan in a bar is, you could get quite a negative view of Geno Smith still. Or maybe average fan in the bar is better than that. I don't know. But I feel like McDonald will get a ton of credit if Seattle got a 10-win season, and them going back to the playoffs. I think that would be he'd be a strong coach of the year candidate. Like if they get 10 wins, also the defense has to be improved.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so much room for improvement on the defense that, like, that will steal you 2-3 extra wins itself, just getting the defense from what it was to even average. So,
yeah.
And this defense should be, frankly, north of average. I mean, that's what it should have been last year, in my view. Yeah. So this year, I mean, it could also very well be north of average.
Yeah. I think 10 wins. Yeah, I'm kind of aligned with you on that. Maybe 9, but it's just the fact that their schedule is very nice in that they host the Broncos, then they have to go to New England, the Patriots. Now, the Patriots isn't a walkover, but they're supposedly playing Jacoby Brissett as their starter. How long that lasts in the season, we'll see. But, they're kind of... Their decision to move on from Judon, like that defense looked scarier than it does now. And the Broncos, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a sec, like it's an opportunity to get a really nice start. If they split those games or if they go 2-0 in those games, things are going to be good. The vibes are going to be very good, and the vibes around the team seem very solid right now. But Griff, I guess the offensive line is the main area of concern. I think on defense, McDonald will be able to scheme around the inside linebacker position, which we spoke about ad nauseum to a degree, or rather scheme for the linebackers available to him right now to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But the offense is it's an unknown, and I guess the offensive line was disappointing last season, but 4 of the 5 guys up front are going to be different this year, so they've changed it. 3 of the 5, because Anthony Bradford's going to be in there. Yeah.
Right.
So 4 of the 5 are different from week 1 last year. Which continuities are, if you have the same guys, you can talk about continuity as a positive. At the same time, did you want to continue down the path that previous line was on?
Right. Well, I mean, you could argue last year they didn't have much continuity last year either, though, just because of all the combinations.
No, yeah,
to establish it, but
yeah. Let's get to Chris Otto. Thank you so much, Chris, for the donation. Very kind. If you want to donate to the pod, there's a super chat function on YouTube, or there's a Stripe donation link. Chris asks, what do you think Ryan Grubb's staples on offense will be? Seems like a lot of run-pass option, inside zone, split zone, mesh, wide cross, with some pin pull and outside zone change-ups. What else do you think he'll major in? Hey, Chris did a pretty good job there, Griff, of getting all the concepts in.
Yeah, he hit on most of them. Yeah, for sure.
Come on.
Well, are you leading me to add to it, or I mean,
what do you think?
It's a lot of this. Shotgun. It's going to be a lot of like the core run will be inside zone, and there will be RPOs built off of and into that, right? Mm-hmm. Inside zone. Split zone is part of that, so you're going to see a lot of split action with a lot of also jet action or fly sweeps not fly sweeps necessarily, but fly motion from the receivers. But he's also going to have like a counter game. I think with like the tackle guard counter, but we're also going to see some counter with the tight ends. The tight ends will be involved a lot with that, especially when they're off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, like GU.
Yeah, GU counter. Drop back game for sure. There's mesh will be play action and drop back. Wide cross will feature. His favorite play probably are like 3-man. Well, it's different ways to vertically stretch the outside with 3 guys. His favorite play is kind of like that 5 or that 7-step snag. It looks like snag. If people listening, if you just Google snag football concept, it's a quick game concept. They've got the outside receiver running a little snag route. It's like 5 yards, kind of like an in-breaking 5-yard stop route almost, or curl route. And then the innermost receiver is going to run a little flat route. Then usually the number 2, the guy inside, or if it's from bunch, the point man, the guy who's on the line of scrimmage, forming like the top of the triangle in the bunch formation. He's running usually like a corner route or some sort of clear out route. So he likes that combination, except he runs it deeper. He elongates all of it. So it conflicts the defense the same way, just at greater depth. So he really likes that. It's a way to like, I mean, the meat and potatoes of it is that snag route where it's like 8 to 10 yards and you're just getting like free 8 to 10 yards every time. But that explosive will open up downfield. And if it's all covered up, you just throw it into the flat and take your 3 yards and go line up again. And then one of the core features though is whatever he's doing front side, it's some combination like that, where when you're talking about your 5-step drop offense, like true progression passing, whatever he's doing in addition to that, or rather whatever he's doing front side, on the back side, he's always attaching these dig routes to it. So what I want to know the different ways he's going to try to challenge those intermediate windows. It's not something he did a lot of at UW, nor did he have to.
No.
But it's going to be crucial in the NFL. And I want to see Jackson Smith-Njigba screaming into those hook windows and just catching a dig route that intersects with his break, perfectly, right? So
yeah, and the timing of the timing of the offense overall was very impressive to me in the preseason, given like backups being in and stuff. But Chris mentioned the wide cross play. That was the one play where the spacing and the timing of like the wide cross, or like there was like a weak flood type concept as well. It just looked off. It looked a bit like janky. And why I mention that is that's a type of intermediate type play, right? So I'm not concerned, but I'm just anxious to see how, what intermediate concepts are there going to be. I think to Chris's point about RPO, that's Grubb's way of getting like a bit more quick game almost. I'm not sure what his quick game concepts are still, other than RPO.
Well, I mean,
snag could be kind of depending on how you run that.
So he runs stick, he runs spacing, and he runs all curls.
Oh, and the quick game wide cross play where it's like go out slant almost.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, he does it honestly. He's kind of similar to Brian Schottenheimer. He's got his man side and his own style.
It really did remind me of the Shotty offense, and yeah, I'm excited to see it play out. And obviously, the great limitation would be, because we all saw how good it looked in week 3 of the preseason against a mix of backups from the Cleveland Browns, but that was because the pass pro was there and the first read was there. How does it look against a proper team where they're rushing at you? We got to find out. And should also praise, I've said it before on the pod, but Scott Huff and Grubb did a great job at Washington of not overexposing their line, varying their protections, not often putting a guard in a one-on-one drop-back situation and back-to-back plays. In order to do that in the NFL, though, you have to avoid the negative play. You can vary your protection, but if you're in third and long sucks. So we will see. But I'm really excited, Chris, particularly about the run game, and then just the kind of shotty nature of the drop back game, as Griff sort of phrased it. I think there's some cool stuff that we're going to see. And obviously, so Griff, here's a prediction question on the offense. Who has more receiving yards this season, Tyler Lockett or Jackson Smith-Njigba? Because a lot of people thinking Lockett's age getting up there, Smith-Njigba in his second season, away from Shane Waldron, who threw so many short passes to Jackson Smith-Njigba, although less than he got in his last season at Ohio State. Anyway, Griff, who has more receiving yards, JSN or Lockett?
I feel like they're going to be within 100 yards of each other. I think they're going to have equal share.
What? Exactly equal? Target share.
Yeah, DK is probably going to have 22% target share. So what he's had previously.
Yeah.
And then I think DK's yards will inflate, but I don't think his targets will. So I think he'll have a higher catch rate and all that. So therefore his yards will go up. But I think that Tyler and Jackson are each looking at 18% target share. So I don't know, man. I think Lockett.
That's low for Lockett as well, 18%. Like that speaks to, because I think he's been 20 is his previous low.
I'll need to look at the actual numbers again, but I feel like it's going to be crowded. I don't think each individual guy is going to get as many yards as everyone wants, or people will start to be frustrated with Lockett for stealing yards. But I don't think Lockett is regressing, really. I mean, maybe this year he does, but I just don't think he regressed last year. And I think Lockett's becoming the forgotten man in terms of who Ryan Grubb is going to, quote unquote, unlock. I think he's going to look at Lockett and be like, you're like some evil combination of Polk and McMillan. Even though McMillan is a slot guy, I mean, he was an explosive slot. He ran him on a lot of deep overs, a lot of deep outs, some posts, slot fades, wheels. Like Grubb is absolutely going to be cooking with Lockett as much as he is the other guys. So, I mean, I see Lockett getting 110 targets, JSN 110 targets, DK 130, Fant 80, 90.
Yeah, people are acting like Lockett's 35. Like he turns 32 in late September. He's not, and also he's kind of already had to get used to slowing down a bit after breaking his leg. Like he's not at his peak speed and hasn't been for a while. I think people are sort of forgetting what he can bring vertically to an offense. And there's a reason, I mentioned JSN at Ohio State. There's a reason that his average depth of target was so low in his last year there, or his last 2 years, sorry. Because he got hurt for the last year, most of it. And it's because they viewed him as the kind of short, quick game choice route runner, and then there was other receivers who they felt were more downfield guys. Like JSN is also able to go over the middle and, not take too many hits, but we've seen how Lockett's protecting himself. I think JSN is more open to that quick to intermediate stuff than maybe Lockett is at this stage. Lockett's still going to get some of those targets, obviously. But, so yeah, when you talk target share and like a downfield type offense, I think JSN will get thrown it a bit, but I also think if you're drawing up a play design, JSN would be your intermediate type route runner, whereas Lockett and Metcalf would still be the deep guys.
Could be.
If you're talking like a drop back thing.
Well, and also I think that Lockett and Jason have enough interchangeability that, I mean, there's enough overlap. Like their Venn diagrams overlap enough that JSN can do Tyler things, Tyler can do JSN things.
I don't know if JSN can separate really late on like deep, like 20-yard plus throws as well as Lockett. I think that's where but enough overlap, you said so.
Right. I mean, that's definitely where those Venn diagrams don't overlap, But yeah, we will see. We'll see.
Anything else you want to talk about with the offense, Griff?
Don't think so.
Good for Laviska Shenault making it. Like he's a actual receiver. I think he brings them a guy who they can almost use like half a tight end just because he's 6'1", like 224 pounds, so quite squat and big. And they'll also, the way that they'll use him like a tight end on like split action blocks is the way that they'll also get him some touches of the football by pitching it to him or handing it off to him.
How many
like a fun type of player?
How many targets for Laviska?
Do you include jet pop passes?
Yeah, so it's all of it. Not the. I mean, he'll get some rush attempts, but some carries where it'll be like fake, right? Like actual targets.
2 a game, 3 a game.
That feels right. So like 45 then.
50, yeah. Hey, Misfit in the chat saying 45. Yeah, that's I think where we're at with that.
Okay, 45.
And how about Jake Bobo? Because he's the type of guy who I think, I'd like to see him be almost the short type choice route runner, like quick outs. Like he can do that sort of stuff because he's quite sudden and good at separating. And be like, just move the chains, possession receiver. I mean, you go back and watch the tape for last year, he's open on so many plays where just Gino's looking the other way. And it's not a case of the zone defender seeing quarterback's eyes away and not covering him that tight. It's him beating guys.
So I'm gonna. All right, this is my rundown. Give or take 5. 130 targets for DK, 110 for Tyler, 110 for JSN, 85 for Fant, 50 for Bobo, 45 for LaVisca, 10 for the remaining tight ends and receivers, and then 50 total to all the running backs.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk tight ends, or should we really quickly go through the defense? We've spoke a lot about the defense this year.
Yeah, so Brady Russell's actually kind of solid for a backup.
As a 4-string tight end, or is he ahead of AJ Barner right now?
He might be ahead of AJ. Like AJ's blocking was okay, but like we haven't gotten to see a lot of him because he's been hurt. At this point, I think Russell is. So.
Yeah, and obviously Russell got the opportunity because Pharaoh Brown got carted off with like a knee injury, which was actually an injured foot. So I don't know what his status is. It said he should be ready for the regular season, but I don't know too much about what's going on with Pharaoh Brown.
Right.
And it's important because obviously Noah Fant is, well, he's been paid quite highly, but he's got his strengths as a tight end, and he probably brings a receiving upside that none of the other tight ends do on the roster. But as your inline type blocker, there's a fair bit to be desired from Fant, so you need a guy who's going to be able to block a bit more. I don't know if that's Russell or not.
Yeah.
Which again, you can't play 4 wide receivers and go 10 personnel all the time. Or maybe you can. Like, Grubb is quite spread out.
Yeah.
He obviously uses his tight ends, but the formations were quite spread. Stood out to me a bit. Anyway. Right, Griff, anything you want to say about the defense, or should we look ahead to Denver?
Let's look ahead to Denver. We can kind of touch on the defense as we go.
Okay, hold on. Before that, where does this defense place in total points and EPA per play for the season?
13th in EPA. 13th in EPA. 15th in DVOA.
Okay.
Total points, I don't know.
And is that good for you? Like, is that enough?
That's fine, because I think that so like I've said this 1,000 times, I think they're as talented as they were last year, but I think the talent distribution is such that the players aren't multiplying. The talent isn't multiplying the way you want it to multiply. I thought the talent was more evenly distributed last year, and they had the right archetypes, with the exception of Bobby. But still, I think they've got a linebacker problem still. I don't know if the safeties are good enough to offset that linebacker problem. I think the safeties themselves are solid, but I don't think they're solid enough to offset a weakness at linebacker that I think that they will have. Unless the linebackers play better than that, then okay, never mind. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a thorn in McDonald's side all year long. And I don't know. I think that's fine for me, though. It's going to be a case of they're going to be really competent, but they're not going to be able to reach their ceiling because McDonald doesn't have his guys. So
his guys, despite both inside backers being outside free agents.
Yeah, but I mean, how heavily involved was he in all of that, right? This year, because it was the onboarding process and trying to put the scheme and coaching staff together.
One of the most important players you'd think on paper, who we haven't seen yet, is Jerome Baker, the linebacker. McDonald was keeping it tight in his most recent press conference with reporters, competitive advantage. He said if Bake's cleared to go, he'll be ready to go mentally. He's a pro. He's a great player. If he's out there, we'll be excited to have him. If not, then T-Night will be rolling. So very non-committal. But yeah, I'm just anxious, excited, similar parts of the brain. I am anticipating how McDonald is going to stay on top of the issues that his defense, like any defense, experiences issues, but there are issues that from the second half of last season, which I've kept talking about, but ability to play man coverage, ability to stop the run. How is he going to correct the problems that they had last year? How is he going to learn from that? Just want to see it. And maybe they just play more man coverage and pressure more, and that kind of fits the current linebackers they have. That could be it. And that gets you to that 13th type of defense you're talking about. Like, the way the D front is and the way the DB group is, that should be enough. With obviously not to underplay how good McDonald is at in-game play calling and feel and game planning and designing pressures to beat pass pro. So, yeah. All right, before Denver, Griff, let's quickly talk NFC West, in that I would say this is the weakest the NFC West has been for a while, in that both the Rams and the 49ers have had better teams in the past 2 years. However, at the same time, expectation-wise, I feel like every NFC West team would be disappointed if they... Well, the 49ers and the Rams, if they don't win the division, they'll have fallen short of probably fan expectations. And also, if they don't make the playoffs, that would be like a complete, like, oh my gosh, the sky's falling. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, if they don't improve on their records, that's going to be a real kind of progress halter. So this, and obviously we've spoke about Seattle expectations. The 49ers recently re-signed Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver. They still have to work out the situation with left tackle Trent Williams. But Griff, this is one of the most competitive, high expectations division in the NFL.
Yeah. I think that, as ever. I mean, I want to buy into the 49er regression. I think their defense will regress because it kind of already has. Second half of last year, their defense wasn't really good, especially the run defense. I don't think they made enough moves to address it.
They've got no one on their D-line.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not true. But
I don't know why. They've got Hargrave and Bosa, which is obviously, that's a lot. Don't get me wrong. But I was surprised by them moving on from Armstead.
Yeah, my hot take is they're like a bottom third defense this year.
Okay. I'll be curious to see how Staley and Sorensen combine, though. That'll be interesting.
Oh, yeah, I forgot Staley was there.
That will be interesting, especially because Staley is... I actually liked what Staley did defensively while being undermanned in LA. I think what he did was the right buttons to push, but he didn't have the players, so it didn't matter. So yeah, it's interesting. I think that they split with the division. I think they go 3-3. I think that they have a strong victory each over the 49ers and the Rams, and then they kind of have close losses. Then I think they split with the Cardinals too, and that'll be one of their weird losses, because every year teams have a loss where they're like, why did they lose that game? The Cardinals, for whatever reason, gave the Ravens some trouble last year. So I think they split with the Cardinals, surprisingly.
And so if we're getting to those 10 wins, you're saying that the Seahawks, and I'm just going to rattle off 7 teams to get there, beat the Bears, the Vikings, the Jets.
I have them losing
the Falcons, the Giants, the Patriots, the Broncos, and then who's the 7th?
All right, so this is what I got going from start top to bottom. Victories over Denver, New England, so Broncos, Patriots. They lose to Miami at home, but then they beat the Lions on the road, because that's like their thing now. They beat the Lions in Detroit.
The Dolphins, I think they could beat the Dolphins, given they've got. Hopefully, it rains. Like they can't travel outside of Miami if it's cold or wet.
See, I think McDaniel is out for blood against McDonald. And I think he's going to go, all right, he doesn't have Roquan. And I mean, just exactly the way the Dolphins are built is like the negative space of, they're built the way the Seahawks, the Dolphins passing game strength is the Seahawks defensive passing game weakness. So like, I'm just looking at matchups there. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to defend the middle of the field against them.
Okay.
All right. So I have them losing. Then I have them beating Detroit, beating the Giants, have them losing to the 49ers at home. Then I have them beating the Falcons on the road, losing to the Bills at home, which honestly, that's a coin flip. But then I have them beating the Rams at home, beating the 49ers on the road, beating the Cardinals at home, beating the Jets on the road, losing to the Cardinals, losing to Green Bay. NFC North in December away games scare me. So losing to Green Bay, have them beating the Vikings at home, and then losing to the Bears. That might be my second most controversial.
I think you've given them 11 wins now.
Did I?
Maybe.
All right. Denver, New England, Detroit, Giants, Falcons, Rams, Niners, Cardinals, Jets, mini. That's 10.
Okay.
And then they lose to the Rams at home. So the Bears game will be really interesting because I think that offense will be pretty good. And then their defense is like elite. And traveling on the road December.
The surprising one to me from what you've just said is the Lions game. I know Seattle has a good record in Detroit, but I think they might get play action digged to death and run.
They might, but like they did last time too. And
it was just a shootout.
I think Gino will outsling Jared Goff.
Okay. Axel's got a question on the schedule. Explain the Green Bay Packers hype to me. The only good teams they played last year were the Chiefs and the Lions, and they got to the playoffs on breakers. The 49ers and the Cowboys were imploding in the playoffs. Yeah, so Green Bay hype, I mean, Griff, you can speak to that, but I'd just say their defense, I'm not a fan of. So Jeff Hafley's come in. They're going to be running basically the Robert Saleh evolution, but what that means is Hafley has the same birthday as me. Good for him. Or I had the same birthday as Hafley. He was at Ohio State when they're running real, like, just pure Pete Carroll Seahawks stuff. They're going to be asking a lot of those linebackers, and the Packers do not have a Fred Warner or a Quincy Williams, and their linebackers look like guys who've been in and around lots of different systems and told a lot of different things. Like, I think their defense could be like very bad, like really bad. Which I think the system gives you a baseline of okay. Like if you look at what Gus Bradley's done with the Colts, and like they don't have the best linebackers or the fastest, most athletic, like coverage Fred Warner type linebackers. At the same time, I think Green Bay's going to probably struggle to rush the passer and have their intermediate stuff picked apart. So the Green Bay hype on defense doesn't make sense at all. Like I've seen people say, oh, he'll bring more aggressive stuff, and they're really excited about having a new DC because they didn't like the old guy. But yeah, but Griff, on offense, that's where the Green Bay hype is with Jordan Love.
Yeah, I mean the Giants the Packers offense was on fire to end the year. Second half of the season, they were like up there with the 49ers really, and the Cowboys and the Dolphins and the Bills and the Seahawks actually, and the Ravens. Those were the top 6 offenses, I think. So I don't know. I just think I think their offense will be as good as our offense, but they'll be at home. And, at Lambeau, and I just don't think Seattle's going to travel well and play there well. So
there you go. Right. Let's go to the Denver Broncos. So the Seahawks host the Denver Broncos. Last time this happened, what a fun game. Russell Wilson's return to Seattle, all of that good stuff. Seattle pulling one out of the bag. Gino is not writing back speech. Now we have a different quarterback for the Broncos, which speaks to how well that massive trade for Russell Wilson and contract extension went. They have round 1, pick 12, Bo Nix out of Oregon. Yeah, that's correct. the fact he's in an Auburn jersey confused me slightly. Well, that seems like ages ago. How old is Bo Nix? He's only 24. Fair enough.
An old rookie.
Yeah. Anyway, Griff, how scared are you of Bo Nix and what Sean Payton can do with him?
I respect Bo Nix, and I
that's a way to start it.
He's better than he's better than I thought he would be. But I mean, the Seahawks are built to disembowel the Broncos. He's a rookie. he's facing a scheme where he's gonna have to do so much thinking pre-snap. He's gonna panic. He's gonna panic at the first sign of post-snap it being different than what he thought it was supposed to be. I think he and Peyton by mid-season will be humming. I think that they'll actually put together a competent offense, but they don't have the talent. They ended the year last year. Actually, so on defense, the Broncos last year started off like all-time bad. Like the first 5 games, one of the worst things you've ever seen. They gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. And then week 6 on, they were like an elite defense. But their strengths were in the back 7. They kind of moved on from some back 7 players. And they don't have a good pass rush. So the Seahawks I think their passing game can take on any secondary so long as they have time. So matchup-wise, it really favors them that they don't have that the Broncos don't have a good pass rush. So I just feel like both sides of the ball, Seattle will win out. I don't expect a blowout because I feel like that's a little too greedy, but they should blow them out. They should win by 12+ points.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you're speaking about, their D-line, like their starting edge rushers are Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper.
Right.
They're like Rush Sams.
Their best pass rusher is Zach
Allen. Yeah. And then Franklin Myers is like a really solid run defensive, like interior dude, right? And DJ Jones too, like he's a good player, but the pass rush juice, like pin your ears back on 3rd down, it's not there. Griff, this is a revenge game for Cody Barton. So good for Cody. Also, sure.
Hey, he won the starting job.
How do you feel about Riley Moss going up against DK Metcalf?
Okay, so is that the image in the thumbnail? Is that
Riley
Moss?
Yeah.
I thought that was Brock Osweiler, and I was like, wait, why are we talking about? Did they like bring him on the practice squad or something?
He's gonna come in for Bo Nix.
Yeah, but it's not just me though, right? Like he looks a lot like Brock Osweiler in that picture.
Yeah, kind of.
Anyway,
yeah, I just think what you're saying about them lacking the pass rush juice is gonna impact the game, and it's more likely to put Bo Nix in positions where he's having to get it done. Like I think Nix is accurate. I think he can complete like quick and intermediate stuff okay, but in those stuff where the situations where Peyton can only help him out so much, and McDonald can ramp up the disguise and the exotic looks and that stuff, I think it's going to get pretty rough for him. Obviously, his ability to run the ball could be an interesting dynamic, if you like. But yeah, I mean, this looks like a really bad... They just, talent-wise, it's what happens when you make a big trade and it doesn't work out, obviously. Like, their receiver group, Cortland Sutton, he's okay. Josh Reynolds, yeah. And then Marvin Mims and Adam Troutman and Greg Dulcich. It's
yeah.
And their O-line is like, but Bowles is kind of, and then McGlinchey at right tackle. Miners is right, but Wattenberg and Powers just, yeah. I'd be very disappointed if Seattle's defense isn't able to achieve stuff. I'd also be quite troubled because this is like you said, Griff, maybe midway through the season, Peyton's got it cooking with Knicks, but at this point, it's yeah, they should be able to cause them problems. They did dabble in they ran 12 personnel 23% of snaps last year and 11%. So maybe Peyton tries to get Seattle in more type base looks and pick on these linebackers. We'll have to see. Monjombo correcting me, saying, did Pat Surtain, did something happen to him? No, you're right, Monjombo. Of course he will shadow DK Metcalf. My Riley Moss squeezing that in wasn't great. But to that point, Griff, I mean, Bobo on Riley Moss, bit of hooping out there, maybe.
That'd be interesting. That'd be fun.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett. It's the thing, like, it's going to be difficult for teams. There's a lot of choices that have to be made that are difficult because of how talented Seattle's receiving group is.
Right. Yeah, they've got depth. And protection lets you get down to the progression, right? All the way through to the progression, the bottom of the progression, that is, to pick out the right matchups. So they should destroy the Broncos. Like, I'm sorry. That's how I felt last year with the Rams, right? Week 1, and they got destroyed, which was a horrific week 1, but I feel the same way. They should absolutely destroy the Broncos. So
any other things that you want to talk about with Denver?
I don't think so. How about you?
Well, score prediction, Griff.
Right.
Would you like to know the odds for this game?
Yeah.
Seattle is a 5.5 point favorite.
That makes sense.
So you'd hammer the over.
Yeah, I'm hammering the over. I'm going to guess 28-17. No. 28-13. Seahawks victory.
I'm going to go 31-10.
Okay. So you're more optimistic than I.
Well, I just think Denver just looks really poor. And it is quite a big game in that it's, McDonald's first game as a head coach. And if it goes poorly, the vibes are going to be just going to collapse.
Yeah.
Because of how poor Denver is. So it's a poison chalice in that sense for McDonald. Like, it's a good opportunity. Get a winning start. The opponent doesn't look too challenging. You're at home. At the same time, if you drop it, then we'll see. But yeah, Seattle should be winning this game.
Agreed.
Now, finally, Reflect the Sun donated and got a super sticker. Hope that super sticker's good, but thank you, Reflect the Sun. Always appreciate you.
Thank you, Reflect the Sun.
Right. Griff, it's your weekend. It's my weekend. Chat, thank you so much for joining us, sticking with us. 124 of you in at 7 a.m. my time, which is like 11 Griff's time, I think. So, thank you, everyone. We'll see you after the Denver Broncos game on Sunday night with our reaction and thoughts on hopefully a successful Seahawks game. Obviously, not this Sunday, next Sunday. Griff, any closing wisdom, thoughts?
None.
In time for bed.
Bedtime. I'm sleepy. I need to.